Welcome back to Uploaded Unfiltered. My name is Jermaine. I'm the host of this show. And today, being that it is Men's Mental Health Awareness Month, I encountered something that, I've encountered it numerous of times, but this time I actually made a piece of content around it. And it was a short on TikTok. The short was a brother calling his homies and saying, what would they think if he bought them a birthday cake for their birthday? And all of them were not all of them. I think one was like, I'd be appreciative and all that good stuff, which you should be. It's a cake for your birthday. But most of them were very homophobic, very unwilling to allow their homie to buy them a cake. And it just struck me as odd. So I made a quick stitch and just said, hey, if you're a homie of mine, you're a dude, guy, it doesn't matter. You want to buy me a birthday cake, go ahead and do so. I would appreciate it. And I will eat that cake gladly. They'll give me chocolate cake, though. I don't like chocolate cake. But enough of my mutuals were like, yeah, no, I agree with that. But there's this larger issue with Black men specifically. I'm not even going to talk about the other races. Black men being afraid or being labeled as gay or being perceived as gay to the point where they don't even eat hot dogs in public. They continue to play this pause game every time they say something that may be remotely construed as gay. And I don't understand it. Well, I understand it, but I don't think these men realize that they have a stranglehold over their life. They have this outside influence that is dictating a lot of their life, and they're missing out on so many dope things, so many joyful experiences in life because they don't want to be seen as weak. They don't want to be seen as gay. And it's because this idea of being gay as a man stems from society. It stems from the content that we watch. It stems from family members. It stems from that being seen as something that will put your life in danger. And I think we owe it to ourselves to analyze why we get so irate, why you get so irate when somebody says that you're gay or somebody says anything that's homoerotic in your direction. And do you realize that you are being taken over by somebody else's thoughts, somebody else's feelings on particular people? And it's okay to analyze those thoughts and see if you agree with them. I have come up with a list of things that the thing that I think it comes down to is, what is your definition of a man? And early on in life, I looked at what society's definition of a man was, and I didn't align with most of those things because I knew there was more to life than attempting to reach this ideal for people that you will never meet. People that only see you in passing, and if you're a content creator, see you in your content, but they're not in your everyday life. Like, just because they see your content doesn't mean that they have a say on what you do with your life. And let me pull up this list. I took notes because I'm a note taker now. Where is it? All right. One of the things that I think at least the U.S. population defines a man as someone who has strength. And by strength, they mean they don't show pain, they don't cry, they figure it out, and showing emotions is an expression of weakness. And just that alone, like, showing your emotions is not weak. In fact, I argue that knowing that you have emotions and regulating your emotions is one of the most manly things, one of the most human things you can do. Like, I think this separation between man and woman has gotten out of hand, and it runs our life to the point where I made it specific. I specifically went after neutral things for my girls and made sure that they knew that just because they say it's for girls doesn't mean it's not for boys, and vice versa, because like that distinction is useless if you aren't trying to control people. I'll say that again. The distinction between man and woman, I feel, is useless if you're not ultimately trying to control someone, control who they can love, control what types of jobs they can have, control what they can do in society. If that's not your aim, then somebody attempting to question your sexuality shouldn't matter. Like, let's say you were gay. What changes? I know society makes you think that a lot of things change, but fundamentally, things don't change. You just have a different preference than other people and vice versa. I think these thoughts that have been passed down to us as men for as many years as it has is detrimental. A lot of people think that men need to be independent and get over their feelings by themselves and figure it out. And that is not how these things work. Especially if I'll say it like this. If the only perspective that you have is yours and people who think like you, then you are doing yourself a disservice and you're keeping yourself stuck in things that you could easily get out if you just broaden your horizon a little bit. Figure out, what does it mean to have these feelings? Why do I feel these feelings? Instead of just balling up and, you know what, I'm not going to talk about it. I'm just going to push it down and move forward. That shit is going to eat you up. Take it from me, somebody who's 43 years old. I used to bottle up my feelings. I used to push them down. I used to just present a stoic face to the world. And that shit gets old. That shit will eat you alive. That shit causes issues in your friendships, your marriage, your everything. And once I got to a point where I was actually analyzing my feelings, feeling my feelings, and figuring out, what does it mean to be the person that I want to be on my own standards, then everything changed. I was no longer chasing after this ideal report of what a man was or what a father was, what a husband was, what a black man was. I decided what I wanted to be and moved forward with that. And I can't tell you, I've been the happiest I've ever been in my life, because I know every day I wake up, I am doing something that is going to make the ideal me happy, grateful, fulfilled. The people around me benefit from that, because if I'm happy, the people around me are happy. If I'm flourishing, the people around me are flourishing. And I am inducting goodness into this world, versus when I was hell bent on being the ideal man that society wanted me to be. I knew that's not what I wanted to be, but I was feeling the negative side of trying to do something that's not you. Like, I was upset a lot. I didn't want to talk to anybody. And that bled out into my family time. That bled out into my friendships. And once I analyzed and isolated who I was as a person, everything changed for me. So I just want people to think. I just want people to analyze their feelings, analyze what they deem to be true. There are so many things out here in this world that are capturing our attention, taking our focus away from what I believe is fundamental for every human, and that is to do things that enrich you, do things that bring you joy, and not to worry about what other people think. Like, sometimes we get into a rut where we think everybody's judging us. We think that everybody's looking at our every move. We think everybody's overanalyzing our content. And that can't be farther from the truth. That is something that we are telling ourselves. And because our minds are both amazing and dumb as fuck, our mind believes that and starts throwing up feelings to make us not encounter those bad things. Because if it's a threat, either physically or emotionally, our mind, our processor thinks it's life or death. It doesn't matter what it is. I feel anxious when I show up on stream. Our processor thinks that's life or death and decides, hey, here's some anxiety, so you won't want to do that. Shy away from doing that. And then when you stop trying to do it, boom, that feeling goes away. But there's part of you, and the part that I want to enrich, the part that I want you to grow, that wants to do that wants to create content, that wants to be seen. That's the part that you need to water and nourish. Anything outside of that is just a distraction. You need to get to a point where you realize that showing up is how you reach the people that you want to reach. Showing up and doing the things that you need to do, making that content, getting consistent with it, is how you reach that future version of you that you've been dreaming about, that you've been seeing, wondering, how do I get there? What's the plan? Pushing forward towards it is the plan. Not giving anything else any thoughts is the plan. That's how you get to what you want. This house that I'm sitting in right now was a dream of my wife and I's, and we thought about it when we didn't have the money to get here. When we didn't know what the plan was to get here. We had a whole totally different plan to get here that just got washed out with the water rather. But the core of what we wanted, that's what we dreamed about. That's what we talked about. That's what we did family plans around. And that's what we were both feeding off of. We weren't thinking of, oh, what if this doesn't happen? Or what if this doesn't happen? What if our house doesn't sell? No, we weren't worried about that shit, because we were like, this is what we want. And eventually we got it. Everything in my life has started with a thought, has Everything that you've wanted has started with a thought. Everything that we have in this world started with a thought. The only difference is whoever had that thought didn't let anything stop them until that thought became reality. That's what we need to strive for. That's what we need to move towards. If you've thought about being a content creator, if you've thought about helping other creators get to their goals, if you thought about being an editor, if you thought about doing voiceovers, if you had the thought and that thought brought you joy, then it is in your right and you have permission to do this, to chase after that joy. Things will pop up that seem negative, that seem like a setback. Analyze those setbacks. Make sure that it really is a setback or just something temporary that you can work around. I promise you, everything that pops into your way is something that you can work around. There is always a solution to your problem. The only way to achieve that solution is to start analyzing these setbacks differently. Start looking at what's keeping you back differently. Don't say, oh man, nobody's watching my videos. That means nobody wants to see it. That's not what that means. That means that you need to change something up so the people that are looking for the content you want to make, which there are people out there, gets to those people. You need to change things up. And I know nobody wants to hear that. Everybody wants to be successful out the gate. Everybody wants to do it once and be done with it. This is my formula. This is the formula I'm going with. I fell into that rut myself. But you have to reinvent the wheel in order to get better results. Simple as that. Once you get to a point where you're comfortable with knowing that, comfortable with thinking that, then the sky's the limit. I know this started off with me saying that men are homophobic and it is detrimental to their health, but this goes alongside the way that we think of our problems. If we get to a point where we are not so guarded and worrying about what other people think and start worrying about what we want and what we want to do in life, everything changes. Everything changes. With that, I want to say thank you for listening. I appreciate your ears on this one. I'll probably be posting this as a video as well on my YouTube channel, on the Uploaded and Unfiltered YouTube channel. I also have a Radiant Reflection website or a YouTube channel where I'm posting vlogs and just thought pieces. But thank you. If you know any other content creators and get benefit from conversations like these and more, please share the podcast with them. Uploaded and Unfiltered. I started this about almost 3 years ago. Have not missed a week yet, and I don't see that happening in the foreseeable future. Other than that, thank you, and as always, protect your mental, keep creating content, and I'll see you in the next one. Peace.